ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl. And once again, I got my good friend Dominick here with me from Fantasy Hot Read. Dominick, how you doing tonight?
You know, Alice, I want to say I feel bad, but in all honesty, a win's a win, whether you win by an inch or by no quarterbacks. You know, the Saints won, and that's all that matters.
That game actually sucked for me, so we're going to have a little bit of difference of opinion on that one. Well, you guys, it took forever to get here, but good Lord, Week 12 is finally in the book, and we are finally up to Week 13. I don't know how we're continuing to push through during this pandemic. I have some comments on that, but I'm going to keep to myself. But to start off with, we have no Thursday night games, so we're going to go straight into our Sunday matchups. We're going to start right at the top. We got the 9-2 New Orleans Saints headed to Atlanta to face the 4-7 Falcons. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, it's great that we finally got here. It's because of all the hard work from Roger Goodell that we got here and everything, so it's great to see. Now, the Saints just played Atlanta 2 weeks ago. They beat them very badly in Taysom Hill's first matchup. They sacked Matt Ryan 8 times. They hurt Julio Jones as well. I don't think this game's going to be much different than the last one. The Saints, these two teams play close. I've been talking a lot this year on this show about how just teams coming in off of a high, and I think that it's a big high with Atlanta last week scoring 43, winning 43-6 over the Raiders. So I think they're going to come crashing down to earth this week. And I think that New Orleans, they could have easily looked past Denver last week with everything going on in Denver, and they didn't. They went out there and they played because they know what they need to do. They're going to do that again this week, and they're going to get the win over Atlanta.
Guys, the Saints had absolutely no competition whatsoever last week in the Broncos. That is not the Saints' fault. So the Saints came to whip butt, and that's exactly what they did. In this particular matchup, they're headed to face the Falcons again. We already know what they done in the last matchup against them. Atlanta had a very impressive win last week against the Raiders, which I did not predict. That's on me. I don't expect a lot out of that team, and so I went with my gut instincts. In this case, though, with the Saints playing the way that they're playing right now and on a roll, even with Taysom Hill. Listen, Taysom doesn't have to throw for touchdowns when Taysom can run for touchdowns and when he's got a good running game in Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. Not worried about the Saints right now. Absolutely think that they'll still get it done, and they're going to get it in this matchup. I'm taking the Saints in this game. Next up, we got the 4-7 Matt Patricia-less Lions headed to Chicago to face the 5-6 Bears. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, we always tend to pick against the teams that just fired their coach, and they always end up killing us and winning. So I really want to pick Detroit here. Nobody's happier about Patricia not being there than the people in the locker room there. Probably the coaches as well. Nobody liked him there. Finally, the owners did what they needed to do and cleared house there, got rid of him and the general manager. My only worry for my friends out there who are Detroit Lions fans are that this January they're going to end up going out and signing Bill O'Brien to be their new head coach, and he's going to trade Matthew Stafford and a first-round draft pick to Jacksonville for Gardner Minshew and a conditional 6th-round draft pick or something. But, besides that happening, I'm very happy for the Detroit Lions fans right now. Do you think Chicago is playing terrible? They started out 5-1. Now they've lost their last 5 games. They did beat Detroit earlier this year. They actually were down big in that game in Detroit, and then they came back and won it. Detroit is obviously an indoor team. I think they're going to have a tougher time playing outdoor. Chicago's defense is much better than anything that Detroit's played lately, so I do think that Chicago is going to be able to win this one.
Listen, I expect the Lions to be able to play at another level and be fired up for this game because they're finally rid of Matt Patricia. There's a lot of bad chemistry. There's a lot of reports coming out of how bad the chemistry was there with him and things that he was requiring of this team. Suffice it to say, this team is not mourning the loss of him or that GM. I expect them to play up to another level and really give it their all in this game. But right now, the way that Chicago's defense is playing, more than their offense is only mediocre at best. That's why they're at 5-6 right now. That's why they've gone, had made the changes at quarterback, and now they're back to Trubisky because Foles is hurt. I don't expect a lot out of their offense, but I definitely feel like that defense is always one step ahead of what the Lions can put out there. So again, like you, I'm going to take the Bears in this game. And just again, I just feel like it's just because of that defense. I do not expect it to be a high scoring game. I just think that even if it's a ground and pound, the Bears will get it done at the end of the day. Next up, we got the 8-3 Cleveland Browns headed to Tennessee to face the 8-3 Titans. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, this may sound like deja vu, but I'm going back to the pod again. This is another one of those letdown games. Tennessee went into Indianapolis last week. We thought it was going to be a closer game. I believe we both picked Indianapolis to win. I know I did. I at least thought it would be close. They just completely crushed Indianapolis' spirit last week. Derrick Henry got 140 yards in the first half. Since Frank Reich has gotten to Indianapolis, they've only given up a 100-yard rusher 3 times. That was to Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry. So he just has their number right now. That being said, Nick Chubb and to a little less extent right now, Kareem Hunt are playing very well, especially Nick Chubb since he came back from that injury. They are going to ground and pound the ball as well. This is going to be a very, very run-heavy game. There's not going to be much passing to go on here. A.J. Brown is great there. He's definitely not going to be nullified because he's a beast, but he can be covered by Denzel Ward there in Cleveland. And with that said, I think that the run game of Cleveland, the offensive line in Cleveland, is much better than the offensive line in Tennessee, especially after the injuries they've had and the loss they have of Jack Conklin to Cleveland actually this offseason. Now they lost Taylor Long. They've lost. So I do think that Cleveland's going to be able to go into Tennessee and finally pull out a win against a good team.
You guys, I like this matchup. It's not just that they're 8-3, it's how each of them got to 8-3. Tennessee looked really good last week against Indy. I should have expected it. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't predict that one. But, it is what it is. I really like what I see out of Derrick Henry this year. It's just phenomenal way this kid plays. Tannehill only has to do a little bit to keep the ball moving, and Derrick Henry will make up the rest. Cleveland, meanwhile, is at 8-3, which is hella impressive out of this team. To see the turnaround that I've seen in this team in this last year, 2 years, or in particular this last year, this year especially, under Kevin Stefanski, has been so impressive. Like what I'm seeing out of Baker, but more than anything, it's the same thing as with Tennessee. It's the ground game. This is going to be a battle of the running backs. Can Derrick Henry by himself outplay Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb? Nick Chubb is your ground and pound like Derrick Henry. Kareem Hunt you can use in the passing game. So he gives you a little bit more options than Nick Chubb does, but Nick Chubb will pound you to the ground. And I love it. Love what I'm seeing out of Cleveland right now. Love what I'm seeing out of Tennessee right now. This might be the matchup you really want to pay attention to this week. At the end of the day, though, I feel like just the way Derrick Henry is playing right now and the way he's propelling his team forward, I feel like at the end of the day, he's going to propel his team to a W there at home. He doesn't want to get that loss at home, giving this one to Tennessee. Next up, we got the 2-8-1 Bengals headed to Miami to face the 7-4 Dolphins. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, remember a couple years ago, or even last year, or even 10 years ago, or any time in the past decade when this would have been a good matchup because both teams suck? Well, it's not going to be that way this year. Miami's actually a very good team. Their defense is playing stellar right now. We know that Cincinnati lost Joe Burrow for the rest of the year. Hopefully he's able to come back. Till he does, they're not going to really have anybody great there. They're going to have Brandon Allen again this week. Joe Mixon is out. They have the receivers there, but with Brandon Allen there, you can't really count on them. Gio Bernard is pretty good, and that's what you're going to have to do against Miami is in the run game because their pass defense is amazing. I don't really care if it's Ryan Fitzpatrick in this game or if it's Tua. Right now, they're thinking it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. Miami's still 11-point favorites in this game, which is scary for Miami to be 11-point favorites against anybody. If Tua comes in there, they'll probably be less than that. But this is just, they're playing amazing right now. Like I said, their defense is playing amazing. It's in Miami. It's late in the year. It's going to be hot there. Cincinnati may not be used to it. They're not going to be ready for it. They're going to be drained. They may get that Miami flu the night before. So I'm just going to take Miami here by a touchdown.
If this game were played a few weeks ago when Bengals still had Joe Burrow, this might be a slightly different matchup. But with Joe Burrow being gone for the season and them now having to rely on Brandon Allen, I can't find a way for them to be able to pull out a win because we just don't know what Brandon Allen is going to be able to do. Even with as well as T. Higgins was playing prior to them losing Joe Burrow for the season. But that loss is so significant for them that I don't see them being able to overcome it. Even with Gio Bernard there and doing as well as he's been doing in the backfield. Again, like you, I don't care which quarterback they start, whether they go back to Tua or whether they start Fitzpatrick again. It's going to be a good game for the Dolphins because they're going to be able to get a win over a team that's been decimated significantly by the loss of their QB. So I definitely got to give this one to the Dolphins. Next up, we got the 1-10 Jacksonville Jaguars headed to Minnesota to face the 5-6 Vikings. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, Mike Lennon's the starting quarterback. We don't know if DJ Chark's going to be there. Like Laviska Shenault, but he's just a rookie and he's been injured lately. James Robinson is great, but he's not enough. Minnesota's been playing very good lately. Kirk Cousins has actually been playing out of his mind the past couple of weeks. Adam Thielen missed last week with COVID, but they still were able to win the game. He's going to be back this week. The 2 weeks prior to that, he had 2 touchdowns in each of those games. And Justin Jefferson should win Rookie of the Year if it doesn't go to a quarterback like Justin Herbert. So with that said, I think this is going to be an easy victory for Minnesota.
This is another team that's missing their starting quarterback. And with Mike Glennon being a starter there for the Jaguars right now and DJ Chark being questionable, don't really see a feasible way for the Jaguars to be able to pull out a win. Cousins has been playing well enough. He'll have Thielen back this week. Justin Jefferson, I love this little kid. I love seeing him score. He has amazing personality, and he's been doing it big for them this season. And then you always have Dalvin Cook, who can really kill you from that backfield. Goodness gracious. This kid is something to watch. So I'm sorry, Jacksonville. I just don't see a way for you to be able to pull out a win considering all the injuries you have and the loss of your starting QB. So definitely giving this one to the Vikings. Next up, we got the 6-5 Las Vegas Raiders headed to New Jersey to face the winless 0-11 New York Jets. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this might be the game of the week. The Raiders coming off that ugly loss last week against Atlanta. The great news that Derek Carr had a little baby girl on Monday, which is awesome. I love babies. I would actually be willing to take the Jets in this game if I am thoroughly convinced that the Jets are purposely tanking and they're not trying to get any wins. They don't want to get up there tied with Jacksonville because then they have to go to strength of schedule, so they want to keep this thing winless. So with that said, I don't think there's any chance that they win only because they don't want to win.
Listen, at this point, Gase has killed me as far as my only predictions every week is this the week that Adam Gase finally loses his job? I have been wrong every week, so I'm going to stop taking that bet. That's the only bet I make at this point. I no longer bet on whether they win or lose because it's very obvious they're going to lose. They have no shot whatsoever in this game. They lost LaMichael Piron for this season. It's a sham. The whole thing is a sham. They're terrible. Vegas is going to come in there fired up. They're pissed off that they lost last week, and they're going to want to have redemption. They're going to take it out on the Jets. Definitely see the Raiders pulling out a win, and probably very impressively. Next up, we got the 7-4 Indianapolis Colts headed to Houston to face the 4-7 Texans. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, coming off a bad home loss against Tennessee, they know they need this to try and keep back up with Tennessee. Like I said earlier, I think that the Titans are going to lose their game. I think the Colts are going to be able to go in there and crush Houston, especially with, yes, Deshaun Watson's there, but he's not really going to have anybody surrounding him. Will Fuller's not going to be there anymore for the rest of the year. Brandon Cooks will be there, but he's not going to be able to do it by himself. We have to hope QT's able to do something. They can get Akins involved from the tight end position. Duke Johnson hasn't done anything with David Johnson being out. David Johnson is off the IR now with the concussion, but we don't know if he's going to be able to play in this game or not. I just don't think that they have enough. Plus, with Roby also being suspended for 6 games, they're down their top cornerback as well, which was a bad position to begin with. So I just think that Indianapolis, I really expect a big game from Michael Pittman here. So I think that Indianapolis is going to be able to go in there and win this one.
Indianapolis is definitely disappointed in themselves for catching an L when they should have won that game. But, they had to face King Henry, and not many people can do against them. Coming into Houston, listen, you guys, the fact that Deshaun now has lost his main target in Will Fuller, and they cut Kenny Stills all within a few days of each other, and now they haven't just figured out what they're going to do, if they'll bring Stills back or not. They have to lean all on Brandon Cooks, who hasn't done a whole lot, or Kiki QT, who hasn't done a whole lot. This is going to be a difficult one for them to be able to pull out a win simply because they're down key pieces in their offense. And on their defense, like you said, with Bradley Roby being out at corner position, and their secondary was already questionable as is. Indy, meanwhile, they're fired up. They're going to be ready to go. I like what I'm seeing out of Phillip Rivers. I'm disappointed he caught an L last week. He is going to be more than ready to come into Houston and jump all over the Texans and get a win in that division. So I definitely think the Colts are going to get the win in that game. Next up, we got the 7-4 Los Angeles Rams headed to Arizona to face the 6-5 Cardinals. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, we expected the Cardinals to win last week. We weren't sure how bad Kyler Murray's shoulder was, and it turned out it was pretty bad. He didn't do much throwing, didn't do much running either. They were also on the East Coast, and they never play good on the East Coast for some reason. Coming back home, I think it's going to be a different story. They're coming in off 2 losses in a row, which they never want to do. Both of those losses were tough ones. Obviously, they lost to Seattle, and then they lost to New England last week. Los Angeles is coming off an ugly loss to San Francisco on a last-second kick by Robbie Gould last week. That said, I think that they're starting to come down to earth a little more. I think Arizona's offense is going to be a little too much for Los Angeles, even though they do have a great defense. And I think that, Aaron Donald is the best player in the NFL. He's definitely the best defensive player in the NFL. You can just give him that award right now. He's probably going to get to Kyler Murray a couple times this game, but I still don't think that's going to be enough. And I think Arizona is finally going to break their losing streak and they're going to win their home game.
You guys, this connection, and I've said it before, this connection that Kyler Murray has this year with Nuke is so fun to watch. I'm so happy for Kyler that he finally has him a good WR1, and I'm happy for Nuke that he's with a team that appreciates his skills fully. But I also love the fact that when he can't get to Nuke, he has Christian Kirk. This is a solid offense, and I love watching them. Meanwhile, the Rams, they came off of a very disappointing loss last week, but the prior 2 weeks, they've been playing out their mind, at least on the defense. I like what Jalen Ramsey has been doing. I always love what Aaron Donald's been doing. He's more than likely is going to win DPOY again this year, or at least be in the discussions for it. You guys, this is going to be another one of these really good games because both of these teams are coming in off of disappointing losses and really want to make up for it and really going to give it their all. It's a division game. At the end of the day, though, I've just based on the way that defense is playing right now, I've got to give this one to the Rams. I really feel like that defense is going to be ready to step up. If they put Jalen Ramsey on Nuke and can contain him, keep him within say 5 and 55, it's over. It's a wrap. There's no way the Cards will be able to pull it out. So for me, I've definitely got to give this game to the Rams. Next up, we got the 4-7 New York Giants headed to Seattle to face the 8-3 Seahawks. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, there's no way the Fighting Colt McCoys are going to beat Russell Wilson in this one. We saw what DK can do when he gets a little ticked off by a perceived slight saying that you're not quite Megatron yet. He got 177 yards on Monday night. He may have 177 this week as well. I know the Giants defense has been playing better, but without Daniel Jones, they might even be worse. Colt McCoy did not look good last week coming in. They're not going to be able to do a whole lot on offense here, so I do think this is going to be a blowout for Seattle.
You guys, without Danny Dimes there, this offense is shot to holy hell. I like Colt McCoy. I liked when he was at Washington, when he would come in and the few times I saw him play. He's got something with him, but he doesn't have enough to carry this team. He just doesn't. In particular, the way that offense has meshed together with Danny Dimes. I don't see a way for them to be able to pull out a win, particularly the way that the Seahawks are playing right now. Yes, their defense isn't the best, so that means that the Giants will be able to score, but can they keep up with the scoring that Seattle can do with Russell Wilson, with DK Metcalf, with Tyler Lockett, and now with the healthy Chris Carson back? No, there's no way Danny Dimes being out that the Giants will be able to keep up with that type of scoring that Seahawks can put on the board. Absolutely have to give this game to the Seahawks. Next up, we got the 3-7-1 Philadelphia Eagles headed to Green Bay to face the 8-3 Packers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to make this one pretty quick. Today is Aaron Rodgers' 37th birthday. I hope he likes sushi because he's going to carve up this Philadelphia defense and he's going to pound this Eagles team into submission. He's going to get revenge on them for coming into Green Bay last year and beating them.
The end. You guys, Packers are playing so well right now. And the Eagles, they're 3-7-1. Listen to what I just said. They're 3-7-1. A lot of that falls on that offensive line. A lot of that falls on the way Carson Wentz has been playing lately. My goodness, has he been playing bad. The team is so beat up. They're not playing well. There's no way that they're going to come into Green Bay the way that Green Bay's playing right now with Aaron Rodgers, with the healthy Devontae Adams, with the healthy Aaron Jones, and be able to pull out a win. 1,000% have to take the Packers in this game. Next up, we got the 5-6 New England Patriots headed to Los Angeles to face the 3-8 Chargers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this one's tough for me because it's kind of a yin and a yang. I love Justin Herbert. I've been talking about that all year. I just love the way he plays. I'm an Oregon fan, is one of the college teams I follow, so I really like him from there as well. So I love him this year. Keenan Allen has a touchdown in 5 straight games right now. Austin Eckler's back. He looked great last week. But as much as I love Justin Herbert, I hate Anthony Lynn. He doesn't know how to coach. They had 4 trips inside the 20-yard line last week, and they didn't get any points. Cost me the over. And I just think that his bad coaching is going to outweigh what Justin Herbert's able to do against a dismantled New England team. Stephon Gilmore is still there. Hasn't been playing as good this year as he has in the past, but he's still a great cornerback there. I think they're going to be able to do just enough, and I think that for some reason, Anthony Lynn's going to do something stupid at the end of the game to blow it for him, so I'm going to have to take the Patriots.
The Chargers know how to charger up a game. That is not a compliment, you guys. At the end of every single game, every single week, damn near, the Chargers charger it up. And it sucks. And it's painful to watch because they'll look good through 3 quarters and then something falls the hell apart in the 4th quarter. And you're like, what the hell is going on with this team? Or the opposite, where they're losing all the way up until the 4th quarter. And right to the end, they can have it within reach and within a field goal and blow it. Every single week, this team is where they are with that record for a reason. And it's because they just keep effing it up over and over and over again. And it's painful to watch. Is it on the coaching with Anthony Lynn? That's part of it. Is it the fact that they're starting Justin Herbert? I don't know that that's what the case is, because the kid looks impressive and I'm impressed with him. And now he has a healthy Austin Eckler back. So they should really be able to dominate with the ball. But again, it's the Chargers, you guys. And I'm so disappointed in them and the decisions that they make at the end of games. Some of these 4th down decisions that they're making make absolutely no sense whatsoever. They're disappointing to watch every single week. Not saying that the Patriots are doing much better. Patriots are coming in 5-6, but Cam Newton is figuring out, and the wins that they're getting, they're finding little ways to be able to pull out wins. Again, they'll be without Julian Edelman. That's going to be disappointing. I'm hoping that they'll have a healthy Sony Michel. We'll see how that works out for them. He's got Jacoby Myers there. Their defense is really what's propelling them forward. I think that the defense will have just enough to get the Chargers to charger it up again. And unfortunately, as much as I hate to pick against Justin Herbert because I really like this kid and I'm hoping that he'll be the QB of the future for them, I got to give this one to the Patriots. I think that they're going to have just enough. It's not going to be a blowout. This will be another one where they probably win by like a damn field goal with 3 seconds left in the game, but definitely got to give this one to the Patriots. Next up, we got the 4-7 Denver Broncos headed to Kansas City to face the 10-1 Chiefs. Dominic, who you got?
And lordy, somebody's going to put up 40. Yeah, this game's going to be very high scoring, at least on one side of the ball. The only issue that we may have here is that Kansas City plays Pittsburgh the following week, so hopefully they don't take Denver lightly. I don't think they will because it is a division matchup here. Patrick Mahomes, since coming into the league, his first game in the league was against Denver, and ever since then, he has just dominated this team. He dominated them earlier this year in the snow. He was able to put up 43 points even in the snow and the bad conditions. We saw what he did last week, putting up 360 yards in the first half, over 400 yards total, 270 on 13 catches and 3 touchdowns to Tyreek Hill. It was just a dominant performance last week, which did not belie the score, being only 3 points. If they do that this week, Denver may not be able to score 24 points against them. We don't know if Phillip Lindsay's going to play in this game. He did tweak his knee last week. Jerry Jeudy, I really like him, but he's not going to be enough. I like Noah Fant as well. That's just not going to be enough against this just stellar Kansas City offense that has everybody. There's pretty much nobody that's injured on Kansas City right now, which is shocking to say. There's nobody on the COVID list, which is shocking to say. So their arsenal is full to go, and I do think they're going to get to 40 or 50 points in this one. They'll probably win it by 2 or 3 touchdowns.
So Broncos had to play a game last week with no quarterback whatsoever. Some of that was close contact. One of it was one of their backups actually did have COVID. And that game was a freaking disaster. This week they are going to have Drew Lock back. Will that make a difference facing this Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium? Hell no. That's not going to make a bit of difference whatsoever because it's the Chiefs, you guys. And the Chiefs are playing solid on both sides of the ball. Have y'all seen what Tyrann Mathieu has done this year? I have, unfortunately, because he's in my division, so I have to watch him. It's just amazing to watch him and what he's done and how he has this defense playing right now. They're 10-1 for a reason. And it isn't just how dominant the offense has been, it's also how dominant this defense has been. You really think that a healthy Drew Lock with a maybe or maybe not healthy Philip Lindsay has a shot going against the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelce, with Tyreek Hill, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Hell no. They do not have a shot in hell, especially there in Kansas City. Definitely giving this game to the Chiefs. And on to our Monday matchups, plural. We got the 4-7 Washington football team headed to Pittsburgh to face the undefeated 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I hate to do this to you, but I got to do it. Pittsburgh, obviously, they just finished their game today. They did not look good. They should have dominated Baltimore, and they didn't. They seem to be letting teams stay close. They're not really blowing teams out other than Jacksonville a couple weeks ago, and that's Jacksonville. Washington's been looking really good the past couple weeks. I love what they're doing with Alex Smith here. We both talked about how much we love Alex Smith. They just dominated Dallas on Thanksgiving. Antonio Gibson was amazing. He had 3 touchdowns. If we know one thing about Pittsburgh is they don't give up a lot of rushing yards, so it's going to have to come through the air with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick in this one, along with Scary Terry. Their defensive line is very, very good. They're not as good as Pittsburgh, but they're pretty darn close. Their secondary is all right. They're going to have to shut down Ben Roethlisberger. I think they're going to be able to shut him down a little bit. We don't know if James Conner is going to be there. I know Pittsburgh is 11-0. I know that Washington is 4-7, but I am actually going to take Washington in this game. I think they're going to give Pittsburgh their first loss of the year.
The Steelers are not going to stay undefeated. They're not. At some point, they are going to catch an L because that's just how it is. And the 72 Dolphins, the ones that are left, will pop their champagne like they do every year when that happens. However, unlike Dominic, I don't think it's going to be against Washington. I like having Alex Smith in the league. I'm so proud of what he done. He absolutely has to win Comeback Player of the Year from the way he battled back and is now out there being the starting QB for this team. Like what I see out of Antonio Gibson, the kid is impressive. Alex Smith is starting to get that connection. McLaurin, this J.D. McKissick is something to watch. This is a good team. This is a solid team. They should have a better record than what they do. They're just not a great team. Is it a reflection on their defense, or is it a reflection on coaching? Or is it a reflection on the fact that they've been decimated by injuries off and on, or players going in and out? It's a combination of all three, and I don't want to get it fully into that. The Steelers, meanwhile, they did not win impressively. The way the Ravens were decimated by COVID and had so many players out, the Steelers should have rolled completely over the Ravens, and they did not. And that was so very confusing to see. I don't know why they played the way that they did at the level they did, considering the amount of players that were out for the Ravens. But going against Washington, do I realistically think that the 4-7 Washington football team could beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field? Hell no. That's not going to happen. Steelers are going to catch a loss at some point. Will not be this week against Washington. Definitely giving this game to the Steelers. Next up, we got the 8-3 Buffalo Bills headed to San Francisco to face the 5-6 49ers. Dominic, who you got?
Well, I hope they're not heading to San Francisco where they'll never get the game played. They're going to be playing this game in Arizona, which is where they're going to be playing all of their games for the rest of the year for San Francisco. That being said, San Francisco coming off that nice, solid victory they had over Los Angeles last week, and it was good to see them finally get a win. They've been injured so much with Debo finally coming back, with Raheem Mostert finally coming back as well. It was great to see. Buffalo had that tough victory last week. They're going back to Arizona for the second time in 3 games because they had the bye week after they played Arizona last time in this stadium. It's going to be a very tough game. I just think that San Francisco's defense is starting to play better now. They got Sherman back. I really like Josh Allen in this game. I really like Stephon Diggs in this game, but he is going to be held down a little bit with Richard Sherman being back there. Defense in San Francisco is going to be able to hold him down, but I still think the Bills have a little too much firepower, so I was actually going to take San Francisco when I first started, but I think that even though it's a different team, the Bills want to get revenge in that stadium, so I think the Bills are going to be able to pull out a very close victory against San Francisco.
I am so happy for San Francisco that they were able to get Deebo Samuel back, and to see the difference that Deebo Samuel makes for this team is amazing. And I'm glad they got Raheem Mostert back because he makes a difference as well. It's a good team when they're fully healthy. And yes, they have Richard Sherman back, but they still have a lot of key pieces on that defense that are just out for this season, and that's significant for them. They have Buffalo coming in there. Buffalo has been playing well. They're sitting at 8-3 right now. I love what I'm seeing Josh Allen be able to do with Stephon Diggs. It's amazing. They're fun to watch. You always have Trey White as a threat on that defense. Love this team. I really do. And as much as I would like to see the 49ers be able to play away from their quote-unquote home field and catch a win, I don't think it's going to be against the Bills. I'm just more confident in the Bills right now. I really want to see Bills dominate and win that AFC East division, so I'm definitely giving this one to the Bills. And last up, we got the 3-8 Dallas Cowboys headed to Baltimore to face the 6-5 Ravens. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, we've been saying it all year. Baltimore's a fraud. They play great against bad teams. They play bad against good teams. That being said, they played a very good game today against Pittsburgh. That was because it was a division rival. They just played out of their minds, even though they were down so many players. As you said, they had to bring in practice squad players to even fill out their 53-man roster. Their defense still played very good. We have to hope Jimmy Smith is healthy. He did go off the field limping. So as long as he's healthy, it's going to be different. Even with that, Marcus Peters played really good today against that Steelers offense that has the 3 good wide receivers there. So I do think that Baltimore's defense is going to be extremely good. They should have both of their running backs back next week in Dobbins and Ingram. We think they're going to have Lamar Jackson back, but we're not positive. They should also have Mark Andrews back, but we're not positive. With that being said, I do think that they're going to have enough, and I think their defense is going to be good enough to hold down the Cowboys, who have been pretty disappointing this whole year, basically. But Ezekiel Elliott was extremely disappointing on Thanksgiving. He only got you 2 fantasy points. His backup actually did better than he did. The whole team was disappointing. I think they're going to disappoint again this week in Baltimore, and I think that the Ravens are going to be able to get the victory.
You guys, Ravens were decimated by COVID. It has been so difficult for this league to be able to continue week to week with the massive outbreaks that are happening around the league. It may be 1 or 2 players here or there. I cannot even begin to count. I think it got up to like 10 or 15 players at one point for the Ravens just going down. They had to bring in practice squad players. They hopefully will have at least most, if not all of those players back next week, which includes Lamar Jackson, which includes Mark Ingram, which includes J.K. Dobbins, and that should be significant enough to be able to help them get a win. The Cowboys are a terrible, terrible team. I don't know fully what that is. A lot of people want to drop that all in Andy Dalton's lap. I don't think it's all Andy Dalton. It's also the fact the running game has not done a damn thing this year. Ezekiel Elliott, I think he's only had maybe a couple of 100-yard games. If you have him, you've been disappointed in him this whole season. It's just been ridiculous the way that they're playing. Again, does this go to coaching? Is that what the issue is? I don't know what it is, but this team is a disappointment to watch, and I hate having to watch them every week. And they're going against the Ravens, who, if they are fully healthy, are going to be fired up because they just took an L to the Steelers, and they want to get back in the win column. So definitely playing there at home, fired up because they had to play with most of their starters out and pissed off that they took an L. Definitely got to get this one to the Ravens. Well, you guys, that's all our matchups for this week. Dominic, give me 1 start and 1 sit in fantasy.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 2 quick starts, and I'll give you 1 sit. The 2 quick starts, one of them, we talked about Houston missing basically the whole secondary is bad. Now they without Bradley Roby. He's their number 1 cornerback. He would have been on Michael Pittman, so really start out Michael Pittman in this one if you have him. He has a good connection with Phillip Rivers, and I think he should have a very monster game in this one. Also, Philadelphia is terrible against tight ends. We've talked about that all year as well. This week they go up against Robert Tonyan, who's not really a blocking tight end. He's more of the inline tight end, like a Evan Ingram, who gets down the field and gets those long 20-yard catches instead of the little short dump-offs. So if you have Robert Tonyan or if you need a tight end this week, I would definitely start him. For somebody to sit, we already talked about Colt McCoy being in there for Daniel Jones. Everybody loves Sterling Shepard. He's back. He's getting most of the targets in New York since he's been back. That said, I wouldn't want to start any of the pass catchers in the Giants, but the one that you're most likely going to be starting is Sterling Shepard, and I would want to sit him against the Seattle defense that's actually playing very good right now.
Definitely got a point there. Woo. Well, you guys, that's all the time that we have today. Want to thank everybody again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thoughts on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominick, where can they read your work?
You can read my work at FantasyHotRead.com, RotoBaller.com, and ExpandTheBoxScore.com.
That's all the time we have, you guys. See you back here next week.